Today we're going to be talking about using printed backdrops and making them look realistic versus causing them to look fake. The difference between a realistic looking surface in camera and a fake one is how the shadows line up in the backdrop in coordination with where your light source is. We want them to line up with where they would naturally fall if it were a real surface. So the light here is coming from the back of these two photos. One of them looks realistic, the one on the left, the shadows are lined up with where they would naturally fall, whereas the one on the right, the shadows are contradictory to where they should be versus where the light is. And you can see the difference between the two. So with the tile standing up, the light is coming from the right-hand side. Here, the shadows are lined up in the grout, making it look more realistic. Here, they are not lined up, so the tile looks flat. And so if you're not for sure, you can just do it in two different directions. Flip it 180 and see which way looks the best. And as a flat lay, you want to do the same thing. So you can flip it a quarter turn just to see exactly where the light is going to hit. But again, one looks realistic and one looks kind of flat and just off a bit. So all you got to do is just flip it around and you can kind of see the difference in real time using the tile as a flat lay. And for textured surfaces, like this one is a white chipped paint backdrop, and it has little bubbles of texture as well as little lines. The same rules apply. Here, the shadows are not lined up, so it looks flat, and the same goes for the tile when we kind of zoom out on the entire scene. And as a flat lay, this is when they are lined up and the texture looks lifelike and super high definition and realistic. And when we flip it 180, the shadows are not lined up. And I should say that the light is coming from the right as well in this scene. And in this photo, this is backlighting, but the texture is not really in focus, but it is aligned correctly. And this is another vertical photo where the texture is lined up perfectly. And this is the super thin and pliable dark brown wood surface. And if I want a reclaimed wood look, I often go to this backdrop because of the lifelike texture. So I've got backlighting here, and the shadows and the texture in the surface look super realistic. And as I give it a 180 turn to where they are not lined up, you can immediately see just how flat and fake it looks. And you might not be able to tell depending on where your light is hitting, but those subtle differences do, I think, make a big difference. So obviously 2 examples of correct and incorrect. And the light is coming from the left on the side of this photo, and the light is coming from the back. And so I think in both cases, this looks like a real table. And once you get your backdrop aligned with the light so that the shadows are lined up, your camera can be in any position around the scene. If you have 2 backdrops, you can be right in front of it. If you have a single backdrop, you can do kind of an overhead flat lay position, or you could do a side angle camera position. You can move it all the way around the table as long as the light and shadows are lined up.